The explosion ripped through the night air like thunder, sending Lieutenant Marcus Chen diving for cover behind a concrete barrier. Dust and debris rained down as the echoes bounced off the narrow alleyways of the Afghan village. His team of Navy SEALs had been tracking a high-value target through these maze-like streets for 3 hours when the improvised explosive device detonated. "Sound off!" Chen barked into his radio, his ears still ringing from the blast. "Bravo 2, good to go," came the first response. "Bravo 3, operational," followed another. One by one, his 5-man team checked in, their voices steady despite the chaos. But as Chen scanned the smoke-filled street, his trained eyes caught something that made his stomach drop. About 30 meters away, near the blast site, a figure lay motionless against a crumbling wall. "We've got a civilian down," Chen reported, already moving toward the prone form. "Martinez, get over here with your kit." Petty Officer Carlos Martinez, the team's medic, was already sprinting across the debris-strewn ground, his medical bag bouncing against his hip. The rest of the team quickly established a defensive perimeter, their weapons scanning windows and rooftops for any signs of enemy movement. The figure was a woman, her traditional Afghan clothing torn and bloodied. She appeared to be in her early 30s, with dark hair partially covered by a damaged headscarf. Her eyes were closed, and she was breathing in shallow, rapid bursts that immediately concerned Martinez. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Martinez asked in broken Pashto as he knelt beside her. She didn't respond, but her eyelids fluttered slightly. Blood seeped from a wound on her left shoulder, and her right leg lay at an unnatural angle. Chen kept watch while Martinez began his assessment. The medic's hands moved with practiced efficiency, checking for life-threatening injuries first. The woman's pulse was weak but steady, and her breathing, while labored, wasn't immediately critical. "Looks like shrapnel to the shoulder and a possible fracture in the right tibia," Martinez reported quietly. "She's unconscious, probably from shock and blood loss." As Martinez worked to stabilize her injuries, something caught his attention. When he carefully moved her torn sleeve to access the shoulder wound, his flashlight illuminated something that made him freeze. There, barely visible beneath the fabric, was what appeared to be part of a tattoo. Military tattoos weren't uncommon. But this wasn't just any design. Martinez had seen enough service members to recognize the distinctive anchor, eagle, and trident symbol that was partially visible. His heart rate quickened as he processed what he was seeing. "LT," he called softly, not wanting to alert the rest of the team yet. "You need to see this." Chen moved closer, keeping his weapon ready but curious about the urgency in his medic's voice. Martinez discreetly pulled back a small section of the woman's sleeve, revealing more of the tattoo. "Is that what I think it is?" Chen whispered. The tattoo was unmistakably a Navy SEAL trident, the prestigious insignia that only graduates of basic underwater demolition SEAL training were authorized to wear. But that was impossible. Women weren't allowed in SEAL teams, and this appeared to be a local Afghan woman. Martinez continued his medical assessment while both men tried to process what they were seeing. The woman's hands, now that they looked more closely, bore calluses consistent with someone who handled weapons regularly. Her muscle tone, visible despite her injuries and loose clothing, suggested someone who maintained peak physical condition. "This doesn't make sense," Chen muttered, keeping his voice low. "Check for any identification." Martinez carefully searched through the woman's clothing, being respectful but thorough. Hidden in a concealed pocket, he found a small waterproof pouch. Inside was what appeared to be military dog tags, but they were unlike any standard issue either man had seen. The tags were black instead of the usual silver or gold, and instead of a standard service number, they contained a series of letters and numbers that neither SEAL recognized. The name read A. Hassan with no first name listed. Black tags, Chen had never seen anything like them in his 15 years of service. Before they could examine the tags more closely, the woman's eyes suddenly opened. She looked directly at Chen, her gaze sharp and alert despite her injuries. In perfect, unaccented English, she said, "You need to get out of here, now!" Both SEALs were stunned. Not only was this supposedly local woman speaking fluent English, but her tone carried an authority that neither man expected. "Ma'am, you're injured. We're going to get you medical attention," Chen replied, his mind racing. "Listen to me carefully," the woman said, struggling to sit up, despite Martinez's attempts to keep her still. "This wasn't a random IED. They know you're here, and they're coming. You have maybe 10 minutes before this place is surrounded." Chen and Martinez exchanged glances. Her information was specific and delivered with the kind of tactical awareness that only came from extensive military training. "Who are you?" Chen asked directly. The woman looked at him for a long moment before responding. "Someone who's been watching your team for the past 2 days, making sure you stayed alive." The implications hit both men immediately. If she had been watching them for 2 days without their knowledge, she possessed surveillance and tracking skills that rivaled their own. Combined with the SEAL Trident tattoo and her obvious tactical knowledge, they were dealing with someone far more complex than they had initially thought. "The target you're tracking," she continued, wincing as she shifted position, "he left the area 6 hours ago. You're walking into a trap." Chen's radio crackled with an update from his team leader back at base camp, but he barely heard it. His entire focus was on this mysterious woman who seemed to know more about their mission than they did. Martinez had stopped his medical treatment, too fascinated by the unfolding situation to continue. The woman noticed and gave him a slight smile. "You can finish patching me up, Doc, but make it quick. We really do need to move soon." The casual use of military slang and her calm demeanor under pressure only added to the mystery. Chen made a decision that would change everything. "Pack it up, Martinez. We're bringing her with us." The extraction back to the forward operating base took 45 minutes through terrain that seemed to shift from hostile to friendly with each step. The woman, who had identified herself only as Hassan, had been correct about the incoming threat. Chen's team had barely cleared the village when radio chatter confirmed enemy fighters converging on their former position. Hassan rode on a makeshift stretcher between 2 of the SEALs, conscious but quiet for most of the journey. Martinez had done his best field medicine, stopping the bleeding and stabilizing her leg, but she clearly needed proper medical attention. At the base, the team's commanding officer, Commander Rebecca Torres, was waiting for them at the medical facility. She had been briefed during their return journey about their unusual passenger, and her expression showed both concern and intense curiosity. "Get her to medical first," Torres ordered as they arrived. "I want a full workup and I want answers." The base's chief medical officer, Dr. Sarah Williams, took over Hassan's care immediately. As they moved her to the treatment room, Hassan caught Torres's eye and said something that stopped everyone in their tracks. "Ma'am, you're going to want to call Admiral Mitchell at SOCOM. Tell him Phantom 7 is blown." The silence that followed was deafening. Admiral Mitchell was one of the highest-ranking officers in Special Operations Command, and his direct phone number wasn't something a random civilian would know. More importantly, Phantom 7 wasn't a designation that appeared in any official records that anyone at the forward base had access to. Torres immediately pulled Chen and Martinez aside while Dr. Williams worked on Hassan in the adjacent room. "I want everything you observed documented immediately," Torres instructed. "Every detail, no matter how small." As Martinez recounted the discovery of the SEAL Trident tattoo and the mysterious black dog tags, Torres's expression grew increasingly serious. She had served long enough to know that black dog tags weren't standard military issue. They suggested something far more classified than a regular special operations mission. Dr. Williams emerged from the treatment room an hour later with a puzzled expression. She found Torres in the briefing room, poring over intelligence reports. "Commander, I need to speak with you privately," Dr. Williams said, her voice carrying an unusual tension. They stepped into Torres's office, where the doctor closed the door before speaking. "I've treated enough special operations personnel to recognize certain physical markers," Dr. Williams began carefully. "This woman has extensive surgical scarring consistent with advanced medical training procedures. I found evidence of old gunshot wounds that were treated by highly skilled surgeons, probably military. But more than that, her physical condition is extraordinary." Torres waited for the doctor to continue. "Her cardiovascular fitness is off the charts, her muscle development is consistent with someone who's undergone intensive combat training, and she has callus patterns on her hands that suggest extensive experience with specialized weapons. Commander, in my professional opinion, this woman is military, high-level military." Before Torres could respond, a knock on her office door interrupted them. It was her communications officer with an urgent message. "Ma'am, I've got Admiral Mitchell on a secure line. He's asking about a Phantom 7 contact." Torres felt her pulse quicken. She hadn't yet made the call Hassan had requested, which meant someone else had initiated contact with the Admiral. "Put him through to my office," Torres ordered. The Admiral's voice was stern and direct when the connection was established. "Commander Torres, I understand you've made contact with one of our assets. I need immediate confirmation of her status." "Sir, we have a woman in medical who appears to be more than just a civilian casualty," Torres replied carefully. "Commander, listen very carefully. The person you've recovered is operating under deep cover as part of a classified operation that doesn't officially exist. Her safety is now your highest priority." Torres exchanged glances with Dr. Williams, who was listening to the conversation with growing amazement. "Admiral, can you clarify her status? My medic discovered what appears to be a SEAL Trident tattoo, and she demonstrated knowledge of our mission that suggests extensive intelligence access." There was a long pause before the Admiral responded. "Commander, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. The woman you've recovered is Lieutenant Commander Alexandra Hassan, and she's part of a pilot program that officially doesn't exist." The revelation hit Torres like a physical blow. A female SEAL. It was impossible according to everything she knew about military policy. "Sir, I'm not sure I understand." 3 years ago, a very small, very classified program was initiated to evaluate the possibility of integrating highly qualified women into special operations roles, the Admiral explained. Lieutenant Commander Hassan was one of only 4 candidates who completed the full SEAL training pipeline under modified protocols. Dr. Williams was staring at Torres in disbelief. They were dealing with someone who was part of military history being written in secret. "Her mission," the Admiral continued, "was to infiltrate and monitor terrorist networks in Afghanistan by assuming the identity of a local woman. She's been providing intelligence on high-value targets for over 2 years." Torres was beginning to understand the magnitude of what her team had stumbled into. "Admiral, what are our orders regarding Lieutenant Commander Hassan?" "Her cover is blown, which means her life is in immediate danger. You are to evacuate her to a secure facility immediately. I'm sending a special extraction team, but they won't arrive for 12 hours. Until then, her security is your responsibility." As the call ended, Torres looked at Dr. Williams with a mixture of awe and concern. They were protecting someone whose very existence challenged everything they thought they knew about military special operations. Dr. Williams broke the silence first. "Should we tell her we know?" Before Torres could answer, Martinez appeared in the doorway with an urgent expression. "Commander, you need to come to medical right away. Hassan is asking to speak with you, and she says it's about an imminent attack on this base." Torres felt her blood run cold. If Hassan's intelligence was accurate, they were about to face a threat that could overwhelm their defenses. How could she know about an attack on our base? Dr. Williams asked. Martinez looked grim. Ma'am, she says she's been tracking the terrorist cell you were hunting, and they've redirected their efforts toward hitting us directly. According to her, they know we've compromised their operation. Torres realized that Hassan's blown cover wasn't just dangerous for her personally. It potentially put the entire forward operating base at risk. As they hurried toward the medical facility, Torres made a decision that would test everything she thought she knew about command responsibility and trust. Doctor, prepare Hassan for immediate transport. Martinez, alert the base security team to go to elevated threat status immediately. The woman they had rescued was about to become their most valuable asset in a fight none of them had seen coming. Hassan was sitting up in the medical bed when Torres entered, her injured leg elevated, but her posture alert and professional. Despite her civilian clothing and the bandages covering her wounds, there was something unmistakably military about her bearing. "Commander Torres," Hassan said, extending her hand in a firm handshake. "I believe Admiral Mitchell has brought you up to speed on the situation." Torres was struck by the immediate change in Hassan's demeanor. Gone was any pretense of being a helpless civilian. The woman before her carried herself with the confidence of an experienced officer. "Lieutenant Commander Hassan," Torres replied, using her proper rank for the first time. "I understand your cover has been compromised." Hassan nodded grimly. "Worse than compromised. The terrorist network I've been infiltrating has not only discovered my true identity, but they've also identified this base as my extraction point. They're planning a coordinated assault within the next 6 hours. Dr. Williams entered the room as Hassan was speaking, carrying a tablet with medical scans. "Commander, I've completed my full assessment. Despite her injuries, Lieutenant Commander Hassan is mobile, and her wounds are stable." Hassan turned to the doctor. "Dr. Williams, I need you to understand something important. The attack coming our way isn't just about capturing or killing me. The intelligence I've gathered over the past 2 years has identified a major weapons smuggling operation that funds terrorist activities across 3 countries. If that information falls into the wrong hands, it could compromise dozens of ongoing operations and put hundreds of lives at risk." Torres felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Her small forward operating base wasn't designed to withstand a major assault, and they were 12 hours away from any significant reinforcement. "What kind of force are we looking at?" Torres asked. Hassan's expression was serious. "Approximately 40 fighters with heavy weapons, including rocket-propelled grenades and improvised explosive devices. They have detailed intelligence about this base's layout and defensive positions." Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the base. Torres's radio crackled with urgent communications from her perimeter guards. "Base Command, this is Observation Post 2. We have multiple vehicles approaching from the northeast, approximately 2 kilometers out." Torres grabbed her radio. "How many vehicles?" "At least 6, possibly more. They're not responding to our warning signals." Hassan was already moving to get out of the medical bed, despite Dr. Williams's protests. "Commander, they're early. We need to move now." Torres made a rapid assessment of their situation. The base had 37 personnel, including support staff who weren't trained for combat. Against 40 enemy fighters with superior knowledge of the base layout, their odds were challenging at best. "Dr. Williams, how quickly can you prepare Hassan for movement?" Torres asked. "She shouldn't be moving at all with that leg injury," the doctor protested. Hassan interrupted, already putting weight on her injured leg. "Doctor, I've operated with worse injuries. Right now, getting me out of here safely is secondary to protecting this base and its personnel." Torres was about to respond when Martinez appeared in the doorway, fully armed and ready for combat. "Ma'am, Lieutenant Chen is requesting your immediate presence in the command center. We've got incoming artillery." The first explosion shook the entire medical facility. Hassan immediately took charge in a way that surprised everyone. "Commander, Your defensive positions are concentrated on the wrong approaches, she said quickly. The intelligence I gathered shows they plan to breach the southern wall where you have minimal coverage. Torres looked at Hassan with newfound respect. Even injured and compromised, she was still thinking tactically. What do you recommend? Torres asked. Hassan was already moving toward the command center, limping but determined. Redeploy your heavy weapons teams to cover the southern approach. Use your medical facility as a secondary defensive position and prepare for urban combat inside the base perimeter. As they reached the command center, Torres could see the enemy assault developing exactly as Hassan had predicted. The main attack was focused on the lightly defended southern wall, while diversionary attacks kept the primary defensive positions occupied. Lieutenant Chen looked up as they entered. Commander, their tactics are too sophisticated for a typical terrorist cell. They're operating like trained military. Hassan moved to the tactical display, studying the enemy positions with professional interest. That's because some of them are trained military. The cell I was infiltrating has been recruiting former Afghan army officers who switched sides after the government fell. Torres watched as Hassan analyzed the developing battle with the expertise of someone who had spent years studying these same fighters. Despite everything that had happened, Hassan's primary concern remained the safety of the base personnel. Commander, Hassan said, pointing to the tactical map, if you can hold them off for 2 hours, their ammunition will run low. They're operating far from their supply base. The battle raged for exactly 2 hours and 17 minutes. Hassan's tactical advice proved accurate at every turn, helping Torres's defenders anticipate and counter each enemy assault. When the extraction helicopters finally arrived, they found a battered but intact forward operating base. As Hassan prepared to board the evacuation helicopter, she turned to Torres one final time. Commander, I want you to know that every person on this base conducted themselves with extraordinary courage today. You should be proud of your people. Torres shook Hassan's hand, feeling a deep respect for the woman who had risked everything to protect them. Lieutenant Commander, what happens now? Hassan smiled for the first time since they had met. Now I go back to doing a job that officially doesn't exist, in places you'll never hear about, protecting people who will never know my name. As the helicopter lifted off, Torres watched it disappear into the Afghan sky. She knew she had been part of something historic, something that would never appear in any official report or military record. Dr. Williams joined her on the landing pad. Do you think we'll ever see her again? Torres thought about the question for a moment. I think Lieutenant Commander Hassan will continue doing what she's trained to do, whether we see her again or not. And somehow, that makes me feel safer. Chen approached them as the helicopter became a distant speck. Ma'am, what do we put in our after-action reports? Torres considered the question carefully. The truth was too classified to document, but the actions of Hassan and her team deserved recognition. We report that an injured civilian provided valuable intelligence that helped us defend the base. Sometimes the most important truths are the ones we keep to ourselves. As the team began the process of cleaning up and rebuilding, Torres realized that they had all been part of something much larger than a simple rescue mission. They had witnessed the future of special operations, even if that future remained hidden in shadows. Hassan's legacy would live on not in official records, but in the knowledge that somewhere, in the most dangerous places in the world, there were warriors like her standing watch, protecting others without recognition or glory. The silent professional had taught them all something about courage, duty, and the true meaning of service above self.